Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's conversation on the Creators Hub podcast. Dusty here, as always, joined today by Chase Brogan. Chase has become one of the leading YouTube producers working in professional wrestling, helping established wrestling personalities build and grow their presence on the platform. He has worked with names including WWE and WCW stars Buff Bagwell, Perry Saturn, Mark Jindrak, and Tessa Blanchard, among many others. Chase, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. So your channel right now, as we sit, is around 840,000 subscribers, around 2,500 videos uploaded. Now, that's your main channel. You also do the video production and you help other creators out in the wrestling space. Can you give my audience kind of a glance of how you got started? How did this whole thing even happen?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's kind of one thing leads to another situation. So this was during COVID. I actually, like everybody else, I think I was just sitting at home with the family, and I actually started getting into retro gaming. And I started figuring out how to basically build game consoles myself from single board computers. And as I started to just kind of tinker and figure things out, I'm not really a tech savvy person, as crazy as that sounds, being that I do have a tech channel. But I started to think, I wonder if I could just share what I'm learning with more people by creating like a YouTube video tutorial and just helping other people out, because we're all at home during COVID, trying to just, stay busy in some way, some positive way. So I started just doing little tutorial videos like that and started to get some traction. And that's kind of how it started to spiral and become what ended up being like a full-time gig. I just was doing these tutorial videos, and as I'd figure things out, I would make a video about it. They were real rudimentary videos, but that it ended up getting me 1,000 subscribers. Next thing I knew, I was monetized. Didn't even know what monetization was at that point. So I just started researching it as I went. And next thing you know, I started doing some review videos, and just it grew from there.
So what exactly is your channel now? Like your main channel that we just spoke of that has 800,000+ subscribers. What do you do there now currently?
So it's mainly product reviews. It's highlighting different tech products. It originally was gaming related and, a little bit of tech, as I said, and it just kind of evolved to now I work with brands, pretty much exclusively. I work with about 10 to 20 different brands a week. Not every video, obviously, that I'm like the stuff I'm making right now will come out in a week or two, but yeah, I pretty much just highlight different products that I think are cool for different companies. So it's evolved into more of it's fun, but it's become more of a job, I suppose, than, where originally it was just, of course, a hobby. So I think that's just the natural progression of YouTube as you dive further and further into it.
Do you remember the moment or the day or the process that kind of it clicked in your mind where you said to yourself, okay, this can be more than just a hobby?
Yeah, it was gradual. Like I looked at it more so I would say the first couple of years as, this it might go from a hobby to a side hustle. I never thought it would be a full-time gig by any means. So yeah, there wasn't a definitive moment where it all just kind of fell into place. It was a very much a gradual process.
As far as the process itself, now that you are doing this full time, do you do it solo? Do you have people that work with you on the channel?
I mainly do it solo, and that's kind of where I'm at right now, where I'm trying to figure out how do I work smarter, not harder. Like I've had a point where I've tried using editors, and it's always just that's where the bottleneck is for me. I can film all day long. I love, prepping and being able to get the filming done. I can do that pretty effectively. When it comes to now taking all of that and editing it, that's the bottleneck for me. That's where it becomes very hard to scale things, to grow things, and to just keep up with the workflow. So I probably need to start figuring out an editor and all that stuff. But yeah, it's been a solo show for a very long time.
Can you talk about maybe a time where you failed as a creator and what you learned from that failure?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. I'll talk about this. Let's see, we're in 2026, 2025, early 2025. I got a studio. And it was a good sized studio, not much overhead. It was relatively inexpensive. And I thought, okay, this is my next step forward to scaling this, growing this, being more productive. And on paper, it looked like a great idea. And I think it could have been, much better than it was. But about 3-4 months into it, I ended up getting hacked on YouTube. It was a situation where, because I deal with brands every single day, all day, I get emails constantly, and I clicked a bad link. It was a link that instantly, like, basically launched an attack on my YouTube channel. It took over my active session, and of course, one of the windows I was in was my YouTube studio, and they instantly gained access, changed all the passwords, knocked me out of it, and this launched what ended up being about 6 weeks of me being locked out of my own channel, losing every brand deal that I had, losing my entire revenue. Obviously I have the side channels and stuff, but my main bread and butter is, of course, my channel. So this, 6 weeks later, long story short, I did get it all back with the help of a cybersecurity team, but I lost every brand deal that I had because, you're only as good as what you can offer these brands. So it took me a good 8 months to really recover from that financially. Meanwhile, it was 8 months that I had this studio overhead. So it was a rough year for me last year, but I've actually closed down that studio. I built out a studio in my home now, so I have less overhead just because now I'm traumatized from that bad experience. But I've learned to make less more and to just think about what could possibly happen. And as crazy as it is, I know a lot of people haven't dealt with hacks. They can happen at any point in time. And, you never know what's coming into your inbox, and you're just not expecting that there could be a cyber attack waiting for you one click away.
Yeah, I had something very similar happen almost 10 years ago. I remember being at church and I got a notification or an email that I had uploaded a video to the channel. And I was like, well, wait a minute. No, I didn't. I didn't upload a video. So I had to go check. And because of a tutorial that I had done on my channel, someone had seen kind of the login information. It was a big mistake on my part, but we got it all figured out. But I remember thinking, man, this could have gone a whole lot worse. So
yeah, absolutely.
Understanding, protect your information and the privacy stuff. That's a very important topic and lesson to learn for sure.
Absolutely. And they thrive off of creating a chaotic situation where you act emotional, not logical. Something like, click this link right here. I'm clicking a link thinking I'm signing a contract. This is somebody that I actually interacted with several times over. And, I clicked that link, just not thinking, because my guard was down. And, similar to your situation, you're in panic mode because you didn't post anything. And I know they do that with, banking stuff and all that. Hey, your account overdrafted, because of course you're going to click a link to see what's going on, So it's a crazy time to, be in an online business. So you always have to just be, aware of your surroundings.
Yep, absolutely. As far as your production goes in the process of making a video right now on your channel, can you walk us through kind of your process from start, maybe like ideation all the way to like post upload? What does that look like for you?
There's many components to it now. So all of my videos for the most part are backed by a brand these days. So it usually starts with, hey, and it's usually a product that's just coming to market. So it starts with an email, correspondence back and forth. This is the product that we're looking at. We'd like you to, consider highlighting it or talking about it in some capacity. So there's a learning process of figuring out what this offers. Is it something that's of interest to me? So there's a lot of back and forth at that stage right there. From there, it'll get sent to me, and then I'll start spending some time with it, getting used to it. Believe it or not, there's a lot of products that come to me that, I tinker with, and I realize this isn't for me. This isn't something that I can highlight in a positive way. Whether I like it or don't, I have to be comfortable with it. So a lot of times the products will just get sent back, and I won't actually do a video on them if it's not a good fit. So that process right there can take several weeks. A lot of brands will start prepping, even months before they release a product. So that takes time. Once it comes to me, I'll, get my bearings with it, start filming some B-roll, and then I'll actually do the intro, ending, talk about the product at that point. Once I'm kind of already, used to it. That's one scenario. Sometimes like a gaming product, that'll be more off the cuff. That'll be more, hey, this is what came today. Show the product. We're going to dive into it together. And that's more of a real-time experience, step by step. It just depends, the best approach for each product. And then comes, the editing after everything's been filmed, designing a thumbnail, figuring out a title that is going to be, engaging, spark curiosity, because, man, there's so many great channels out there these days. YouTube is just saturated. So you have to find a way to stand out. And now with AI too, everybody has the ability to make some really engaging thumbnails. So the competition is pretty high these days.
As far as the products that you bring on your main channel, which is kind of the lump sum of the content that you're doing, are you reaching out to these companies, or are they reaching out to you now that the channel's kind of grown?
Yeah, never. They're all reaching out to me, which is a blessing. I've talked to people that are like, and that's a question I get a lot. How are you getting to these brands? And the reality is I'm not. I'm just opening my email, and I'm blessed to have that, and I think it's mainly because I've been doing this for 6 years. For anybody coming into YouTube right now, it's infinitely harder than it was 6 years ago. So hats off to anybody, trying to break in right now. It's really saturated. It's really tough to do. But I think that the best way to stand out is if you can offer top-notch production and be willing to work with others and consider what they're looking for. I really think that you can find some success in that space.
Let's talk about that then. If you were starting today in 2026, what would you do? Like, what is your advice for those people that are starting today?
Try not to be like somebody else. I think we all come into YouTube because we saw somebody else doing something. They inspired us in some way, whether it's a positive way or a negative way. I think there's a lot of channels out there that you view and you think, hey, I could do this and I could do it better than that person. And you probably can. That's the reality. But it doesn't mean that you will, because what a lot of people overlook is that this person that they're watching probably has longevity. They probably started 15 years ago. There were so many channels. I looked at Review Tech USA was a big channel when I was first coming in, or ETA Prime. And I thought their production's not super high end. I could probably, muscle into this space as well. And I was wrong. I eventually did to some capacity, but what I overlooked was they started like day one of YouTube. They started in like 06 or 05 or whatever. So they had that much momentum supporting them. They didn't have to have the highest production value. They had longevity. So to answer your question, I think it's very hard. You have to look at the niche that you want to get into. You have to look at the category that you want to get into, kind of evaluate the landscape and see how you can offer something better or something different. And I think honestly, different is going to be an easier path. And also, if you can provide, a lot of people look at like podcasts, Joe Rogan Experience, Howard Stern, all these major players. Theo Von is a big one these days. And they think, hey, this is a pretty basic format. I could do that. You have to, I think before you can entertain people, you have to educate people. And if you can teach them something new, they're going to be 100% in your corner because they're gaining knowledge, not just entertainment. And then I think later on, you can pair in some entertainment value as well to usher it along.
It's easy to think that, you can replicate what someone's already doing, but
Absolutely,
they got there for a specific reason.
Right.
Whether you're talking about the podcast that you're referring to, a lot of it is a combination of personality, consistency, finding out what your differentiator is, which is what you mentioned. And I think I'd like to ask a follow-up question to that. How can you find out what your thing is? As far as a creator, what could make you different and stand out on YouTube? Are there things that you can do to kind of pinpoint that?
I think it's really trial and error. I really don't think that on paper you can really pinpoint much. I think you have to get out there and do it. You have to get your reps in. And unfortunately, a big major pushback that you'll experience with that is failure. You're going to do, you mentioned before how many subscribers I have, but also how many videos I have. I've got over 2,500 videos. I can tell you firsthand, the majority of those are fails. They're not massive views. I don't know that I have some shorts that have gone viral and stuff, but in terms of like long form content, I don't think I have a video over 1 million views. I have a lot of videos that did well, but not super well. So I think a lot of people, they'll look over here, they'll look over there, and they'll think, okay, well, how am I doing compared to this guy that's been at it for 10 years? And it starts to eat away at people, and they end up quitting. And I think you have to embrace your fails. You have to embrace, okay, I thought this video was going to do 2,000 views. It did 200 views. Why did it do 200 views? And a lot of times what I experience, especially with the wrestling world that I'm in, the stuff that I think is going to do great usually doesn't. The stuff that I almost wasn't going to release for whatever reason probably 8 times out of 10, that's the one that ends up passing all the stuff that I really poured myself into. So you kind of just have to, it's really trial and error. Anybody that tells you that they know what something's going to do before it gets released is full of it. They don't.
Yeah.
None of us do. We don't have a crystal ball.
Try not to compare yourself to others. I completely agree, because you can get into that position to where it will overwhelm you, and you'll start thinking,
Absolutely.
well, I'm never going to get there. You will, but it's going to look different than how they got there. And I think that's a great kind of
100%,
takeaway from what we've been talking about.
Right.
Now, as far as the things that you're utilizing to make your videos happen. So let's talk about hardware, software, tools of the trade. What does that look like for you? Because I know it looks different now than even it did a few years ago with AI. So what does that look like for you? What does your tool belt look like to make the channel happen?
It's always evolving. I'm always looking for, I'm somebody that's very stuck in my ways, but also and maybe I have a little bit of a split personality to complicate things, but I'm very set in my ways. I have a comfort zone of this is what I use, but I'm also at the same time always exploring new things. It's just hard for me to embrace new things. So we're on Riverside right now. I recently started using Riverside. I absolutely love it. I do all of my remote recordings through Riverside when I'm working with, the pro wrestlers that I work with, and, doing those distant collaborations. When I'm filming for my channel, it's all done local. So I'm filming on an SD card inside of a totally different camera than what I'm using right now. But yeah, so it's two completely different processes. I use CapCut a lot, which was a software that I fought and looked down on for years because it just it originally wasn't something that was widely used by professionals. It was more, people that were on the go content creators, if you will. And then I realized I'm an on the go content creator, and why am I working harder, not smarter? And now I use CapCut on a tablet. I use it on a phone. I use it on a PC. It's very easy to integrate into different types of content. So I use that a lot. I also use a program called Descript, which has a lot of similarities to Riverside and CapCut. There is a lot of crossover. Descript is a great software that I've found cuts down on my initial edits. So I can put in my talking head portion of a video, it'll transcribe it, and I can go in there, remove, redos and reshoots, so it's fluid and it looks good. And then I'm able to take that to CapCut, start integrating in B-roll. So lots of moving parts, but that's more or less my process.
I interrupt the show this week just to tell you briefly about what we offer creators. I don't run ads on this podcast currently for a specific reason. I just want to let you guys know about all of the amazing things that we here at the studio can offer you, the creator. I do one-on-one coaching. I do about 7 to 10 calls a week. I offer a lower entry, cheaper option, which are YouTube channel reviews or audits. If you just want a different set of eyes on your channel, I sit down, take a look, record about a 6 to 8 minute screencast video, letting you know where I think you can most efficiently spend your time. And then we have other offerings like our mastermind group, where we do monthly mastermind calls. I record exclusive solo podcast episodes there every Friday, and you just get to rub elbows with other creators. And then all of our free offerings, like our email newsletter, our spreadsheet that has a running list of all the tools that are mentioned here on the podcast. All of that will be in the show notes down below. And now back to the show. In the back end of your system, do you do like Google Docs for like the scripting, and what are your kind of software that you use kind of on the back end?
Yeah, I use Google Docs a little bit. I think everybody's embracing ChatGPT. ChatGPT is great I don't overly script stuff. So what I'll do is I'll use ChatGPT for prep. And I'll pull like specs on products. I'll get organized with my bullet points, stuff like that. Same thing when I'm working with the pro wrestlers. I don't like to have them scripted from start to finish. It was an issue that I had with, somebody I worked with in the past where everything had to be scripted 100%, and it just, you lose authenticity. So what I'll typically do is I'll bullet point. And that's what they did, these older wrestlers used to do with their promos and stuff. They'd have bullet points. They wouldn't have a script. They'd have to hit those bullet points, but they'd do it in a way where they make it their own. So I'll lean into ChatGPT just to organize that, share that, back and forth.
As far as the monetization goes, your channel oftentimes will upload like daily videos on a specific product where you do these deep dives, reviewing different tech products, gaming products. And so you've kind of been known, as we've mentioned throughout this interview. But as far as monetization, I assume that it's in a bunch of different buckets as far as like affiliate revenue, sponsorship, the YouTube partner program. Can you break down the different revenue sources that you have, and then maybe on average tell us what you can make with your numbers?
Absolutely. It really depends. It depends how your content is being used, first and foremost. And I'm in a weird, unique sort of space with my channel where it's a combination of things. So I know a lot of content creators. One of my closest friends is Maven Huffman. He's got a super successful YouTube channel. His revenue is entirely AdSense. So that's the ads that run during your videos. With my channel, it's very much split. It's a lot of different components to it. So as you mentioned, it can be affiliate, links. So if I am promoting a product or talking about a product that has an Amazon link associated with it, I can go ahead and drop that Amazon link to where I get a percentage of any sales that come through that link. Another interesting aspect of Amazon is you will get a percentage of anything that's in your cart. So if you were to go and buy, I'm showing you a mouse, for example, just a $9.99 Amazon Basics mouse on Amazon. You buy that, but you also buy, just for an extreme example, a boat trailer, which actually did happen at one point for $5,000. I'll actually get a commission off of that boat trailer as well because it was part of that massive transaction. So you'll see spikes in your revenue with stuff like that. I'm gonna make about 10 cents off of a mouse. I'm gonna make a good chunk off of a boat trailer. So there's different things like that. A lot of content creators, myself included, will do brand deals where we negotiate, hey, I'm going to do a video for you. You're going to be able to use this video beyond just me posting it on YouTube. You can use it for marketing materials. You can put it on your website, e-blasts, whatever you want to do. So we'll negotiate a rate that works for, the time and production that I'm going to provide, as well as the exposure. So brand deals are a huge part of it. I would say that the majority of my revenue comes from brand deals. Small portion comes from the affiliate links. I also have an Amazon storefront, which is basically like a landing page on Amazon's platform where I can post all these videos. So if I do a video on that mouse and I put it on YouTube, I also send it to the brand that they can use on their own. I can also post it to the Amazon storefront where it will actually sync up with the product listing on their platform. So it's just another bucket. It's a small bucket, but another bucket. And then, of course, the ad revenue off of the views themselves on YouTube. So in terms of revenue that you can generate, it can be a lot or it can be a little. It all depends on what you're getting for views, where your views are coming from, the brand deals that you're doing. And then, of course, conversions are a massive part of it. So you can make, a lot of people, I think, judge a channel based on their subscribers, which I always laugh at because the subscriber count means very little. It's really just a number on a screen. It means nothing. I know channels with 9,000 subscribers that make more than channels with 1 million subscribers. It's all dependent on engagement, views, and what you're doing with those views.
100% agree with that. The subscription number is it's a metric. It oftentimes kind of get you in the door.
Sure.
With a brand where you may say, hey, here's kind of my pitch sheet and here's how many subs I have and how many total followers I have across the board. So I completely agree with that.
Yeah. A lot of times it's fluff though.
It is. Yeah.
It's like you said, I think a lot of people are just trained to, wow, this person has this much. That means that they're of this caliber. Doesn't work that way.
The actual sponsorship deals, do they require you to get a certain amount of views when you are negotiating with them? Can you talk about just the sponsorship negotiation process and how you've optimized it over time to be the most successful for your channel?
Sure. It's every brand's different. And a lot of times you're dealing with third-party brokers or agencies where, like a brand like LG, just as an example, I've never worked with LG, but I'm just using them as an example. LG doesn't have necessarily a department that reaches out to content creators. They farm that out to a third party broker or agency. So a lot of times it's the agencies that you deal with, and they're essentially a middleman. It can work to your advantage. It can also make you want to just pull your hair out. So that's a big part of it. But in terms of negotiating, it really is a case by case basis. Some do have requirements. Hey, we want this to hit X amount of views. We want the engagement to be this, or we want to see this much revenue come in. And that's where things can get really complicated because I can't guarantee sales. All I can do, or any content creator can do if we're working within that product space, is show the product, show what it does. The product either sells itself or not. It's not our job to become salesmen for you. It's our job to objectively show what a product does, point out its strengths, point out its weaknesses, and you kind of just see where the cards fall. So anytime a brand wants to do something that's, hey, we need to make X amount of dollars off of you, or we're not pay, I can't be a part of that because I don't know what you're going to do. I can't I can't really say 100%. I can tell you what the exposure is likely to be based off of my track record. So I try to just go that route. And I think, and that's where most brands are understanding. They understand the process. A lot of brands are also looking for marketing materials that they can use beyond just YouTube. And I think that's where a lot of content creators will shoot themselves in the foot. They'll say, I'll post the video, but the video remains mine and you can't use it. I give everybody unlimited rights. If I make a video for your product, you can take that video, you can put it in e-blasts where people can, your entire following can click it and engage with it. Ultimately, that helps me as well. So I always say unlimited usage rights. I don't charge for that. And I think that makes it an easy deal for them to say yes to, because they look at it as, okay, we can't guarantee our return on investment, but we get this as a result. We see the quality of his work and we can use it freely without limitations.
On average, what are you getting for a deal? For a deal when a product is being featured on your channel? I know it varies widely, but on average, what are you trying? Do you have a floor that you're trying to reach?
Yeah, I mean, it's anywhere from typically $1,000 to $2,500 on average. It just depends on how much time, if it's a keyboard, for example, a mechanical keyboard, very straightforward, unboxing, test it out, demo it, put the video together, pretty straightforward. If it's a product that's like a security system for a home that I know is going to take, days to probably put together and to film effectively, that's going to be something that I have to factor in the time that goes into it for. So that's going to be a higher price. That's about the average, I would say. Now, that to some people, that probably sounds astronomical. I've seen other people's rates and I've seen channels that have, a fraction of the following that I have. And a lot of brands charge $5,000, $10,000. So it's all over the board. Because I do this for a living, I make my rates, as affordable as possible, that while also obviously accounting for the time that goes into these productions. So I think it depends on what you want to make, what your time's worth to you, and how long you've been doing it. For me, when I started actually charging, I didn't charge for years. So you really have to put your time in to build to that. And when I did start charging, I was like, maybe I can charge $300, and then as I got a lot of deals at 300, it was like, okay, I can't keep doing it at 300. I got to raise my rates and take on less. So that's kind of how I've elevated my rate higher and higher. It's more so based on time and what that time's worth to me.
As far as YouTube as a platform right now in 2026, you've been on the platform for a while now, a good while. What is working currently in the present day YouTube? We all know the news that the YouTube Partner Program is changing its threshold and requirements, and those are changing in February of 2027. So it's an ever evolving thing. And what worked even 3 years ago really doesn't work anymore. And especially when I started almost 16, 17 years ago. So with that said, what is working right now? What is YouTube looking for?
Man, it's hard to say. It's always evolving, and I'll say this: it's not getting easier for content creators. I hear from a lot of people. Pretty much anytime somebody finds out that I'm, a YouTuber, and I don't wear that as a badge of honor. I don't tell many people about that. But when people find out, they think, I think people are conditioned to think that everybody's making Mr. Beast money, and it's taken me 6 years to make a full-time income off of YouTube, and I work endlessly. I'm up early in the morning. The other day I was filming with Perry Saturn until about 3 a.m. So like I work endlessly. I have 3 kids. It's a grind. So they don't make it easy for you. And the ad revenue that you'll get, like, I think a lot of people, again, are conditioned to think, hey, if you got 100,000 views, you're making crazy money. Usually not. Usually a couple hundred, 100,000 views on average might be $700, $800 if you're lucky. So you have to constantly be putting out content to really make a solid income on here. So what's working, man? Not much. It's a really tough grind. And I don't say that to deter people from getting into it. It's created a great life for me. I love every minute of it. I'm grateful for it, but it can be a lot, and it's not for everybody.
I think if you're willing to get through that grind and you're willing to understand that it's not going to be instant gratification in a time where people want to be gratified like that,
Yes.
I think that you are able to stand out and you can get to the promised land. Now, I'm not promising that you're going to make Mr. Beast money or that you're even going to make a full-time income, but I think it is easier than people think to make money on YouTube. It goes back to a point you made a few minutes ago in a previous question when you said, it's not really about subscribers, it's more about views and what you do with those views. I think if you know your target audience and you know an offer or something that you have that those folks need, it's going to be very easy to monetize that. So whatever it is, like for me and my tutorial channel, it's tech news and tech tutorials and guides all the way from simplistic to very advanced. And I know that, and I know who my audience is, and so I'm able to monetize that audience. So knowing who those folks are is very important.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes people just overcomplicate things unnecessarily. I'll say this because while it can be very hard to make full-time income, sometimes less is more. And I'll reference this video I did. I did a video on how to hook up an NES console, which if you think back to an NES console, it's before my time, but it's two cables. You have the audio video cables and you have the power supply cable. I did like a 9-minute video on this. Maybe it wasn't 9 minutes, but I did an overly lengthy video on this. It got like 150,000 views, and it's essentially plug one cable in, plug the other cable in. But because it's a generational product that a lot of people today didn't experience hands-on, they go to a YouTube video to figure out how to connect it and also how to connect it over to modern displays. That video made me a fortune, and it's stupid basic. So it can be very easy. You just have to find that avenue to make it happen.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. Chase, you have been a phenomenal guest. If you could leave the audience with one thing that could help either encourage them or help them on their creator journey, what would that one thing be?
One thing, do something that you are passionate about, that you can speak to in a massive capacity, because it's very hard to, for me, I grew up a wrestling fan. So I got into wrestling, but I got into wrestling behind the scenes. If you watch any of the channels I'm part of, only one I would say I'm on camera with, and I'm on camera even on that channel in a small capacity. I love that, but I can't do that myself. I don't have enough to offer myself to really immerse myself in that world. So you have to find something that you can relate to and that you're passionate about, because again, that monetization is not going to be instant. That full-time income may never come. So you need to do something that you're passionate about, that you enjoy doing, and that you're comfortable doing for free, because you will do it for free for at least a period of time. So it's find something that you're passionate about, that you love, and that you're not going to get bored with fast, because this isn't an instant, gratification thing.
Chase, you have been an amazing guest. I really appreciate your time. I highly encourage folks to go check out your channel, Chase Brogan, Brogan, over on YouTube. I'll have some links in the description for you to connect with Chase if you'd like. And with that said, Chase, we'll talk to you later.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.